For my final year piece, I wanted to focus on an element of my work that I would be most interested in pursuing a career in, so I created a series of gameplay-ready animations. Early into the process of making these animations, I've realised there was a lack of ideal reference footage to be found online. To make up for this, I recorded this reference footage myself inside of my building's gym. I recorded the idols after the running and the walking, so I would have the same out-of-breath feel that the soldier would have. The treadmill was very useful for recording all the different walks, such as the left, right, backwards, the normal walk, the crouch walk, and the running. To better understand how the impact animation would play out, I got my friend to hit me repeatedly to see how a sharp jab would impact the human body. The mask was also to help be more in character. These renders are the end result of my hand keying animation process based off of the previously collected reference footage. These animations were carefully thought out early into the development process. I wanted to try and create as big of a range of motion as a gameplay character could realistically have. This included several actions, including aiming, shooting, and stabbing, along with locomotion for walking forward, and crouching and walking forward while crouching. The left, right, and backwards walk cycles were added later in development as I wanted some more range of motion for the character. Due to a lack of ideal reference footage, I recorded a lot of these motions myself, including the walks on a treadmill, and then several idols which I recorded after the walks, so I could have the look of being out of breath while doing it. I also made several reactive animations, such as taking damage and dying, just so the character would have a bit of feedback to the player. Due to the relatively little amount of animations for the second character, I was able to get away with using mostly the same reference footage, aside from his death animation, which really had me stumped for a while. I got around this by having another friend mimic dying and falling over in the method I wanted. I really wanted this animation to be distinct, as the second character's main goal was just to interact with the first, therefore dying would be really important for him. These are the secondary character's renders, played in full, back to back, on a white background with bright lighting. He only has a few animations, as his only role was to interact with the main character in a gameplay-like scenario. His main role was to fire at the main character and then be shot at by the main character. These animations were created for gameplay purposes, so I imported them into Unreal and built a stage with a few props so you could see how they would look under gameplay conditions. Having them play in Sequencer also gave me the opportunity to blend the animations into each other, which made them flow nicer and you were able to see how they would transition in gameplay. I also created and keyed up particle effects for several of the animations to make them stand out, as under gameplay conditions similar effects would also be played. Additionally, I also created a repeating particle emitting from his mouth to simulate breathing. In Sequencer, I played all of these animations twice just to show that they perfectly flow into each other and can be played indefinitely, such as if the player character was walking forward for an extended period of time. The only animations I chose not to loop during this playthrough are the jumping starts and the jumping ends. This was to have a clean loop through of all the different states of the jump. These and the death animation are the only ones that do not loop flawlessly, as they are only meant to be played once. My original plan for the blended animations was to use an animation montage to play one animation over the top of another from a selected joint. However, this required a character blueprint to trigger the animation and wouldn't work for my needs in Sequencer. To create the blended animations, I selected the upper bones from the animation I wanted the character's upper half to play, in this case it was the aiming animation, and exported those as an FBX. Next, I picked the animation that I wanted to play on the lower half of the character. For this one, I used the walk, and selected the hips and leg bones and exported those as a separate FBX file. For the last step in Maya, I placed both FBX files into a blank Maya scene, and because they shared the same bone naming scheme, they were combined into a singular skeleton. This skeleton was then exported as a third FBX file and imported into the Unreal scene with the main character selected as the mesh to apply the animations to. This method worked, but left an issue with the upper torso swinging with the hips, with no counter rotation in the spine to straighten it out. To solve this, I used Unreal's animation graph editor to counter rotate one of the spine bones so the gun would remain pointing forward as the character walked. These are the before and after of my tweaks in the graph editor. You can now see the end result of all the blended animations I created rendered out in Unreal Sequencer. The reasoning behind the blended animations I chose was a mix of what I thought was necessary for gameplay purposes and what I discovered I needed while working on the cutscene, shown later. I also made sure to include VFX in these animations as well, to give them the same level of polish as the original keyframed animations that they are comprised of. I also imported the second character into Unreal for the same reasons as the first character, so that it could be seen in a game-ready state with props and in-engine lighting to see how it would look in a suitable environment. I also created visual effects for this character too. To conclude my piece, I built a level and created a cutscene inside of it to demonstrate the animations in a gameplay-like scenario. I chose this method over creating a playable character so I could show off my animations in the most flashy and presentable way possible. I also enjoy working with Unreal Sequencer to create scenes, so it was a great reason to use it more. Creating a cutscene also gave me a good reason to create VFX and develop my sound working skills, two areas I would like to develop and enjoy working with. The last piece I created for this project was a cutscene, and I will not be speaking over the top of it as it has sound work that I am proud of. My goal behind this piece was to create a set of gameplay-ready animations polished to a high quality. I believe I have achieved this goal. On top of this, I have also achieved my secondary goal of demonstrating them in a gameplay-like scenario with the cutscene I created. I also believe I exceeded my set goals by adding VFX and sound to the cutscene.